Let's bring Fadi into this conversation. Fadi, how possible is that legally, for a start?
Well, the conventional orthodox view is that it's not legally possible in terms of what the law currently is. I'm not talking about what the law should be as per growing sentiment and public opinion. But in terms of what the law is, the orthodox view is that this wouldn't be feasible because effectively what you're doing is you're creating almost like a seawall. The Navy will create that seawall on the edge of British waters, effectively intercepting a boat or the boats as they come in, or what's called in the international legal language, interdiction. The orthodox view is that you wouldn't be able to do that under Article 33 of the Refugee Convention by reference to Article 14 of the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, which provides a right to asylum. So in effect, by doing that, you're nullifying the right to asylum.
That's interesting.
But that's the orthodox view. My view is that there's room for wriggle room. Why? Because I regard the Article 14 right to seek asylum as a right. I don't deny it, but it was never envisaged that the right would be exercised through mass organised crime.
Right.
And there is, for example, a UN document in the year 2000, the UN Protocol on the Smuggling of Migrants by Land and Sea, which suggests that you can exercise some interceptive practices if there's reasonable grounds that it's the product of organised crime. So I don't think this question is as legally settled as people think it is.
So interesting, because of
I think there's room for debate, but as I said, I'm in a minority view here.
Yes.
But I think there's room to look at the principles that we've established and say, hang on, this isn't necessarily about the right to seek asylum. We're talking first and foremost about what comes first, the chicken or the egg. This is about combating organised crime at a large scale.
As I understood it, it was less about the Refugee Convention and more about the law of the sea, about intercepting boats in water. Is that not so much of it?
That would come into play in terms of international maritime law, where there's a duty to help boats in distress, etc.
Which is
so you could then have a scenario where a boat capsizes and then you're under obligation to...
There is another point that's worth pointing out here with regard to these boats coming across. These are not refugees at the point where they're in the channel. They are people that are crossing the channel illegally, circumventing our borders. It's only when they land in the UK that they then go on to claim asylum. So at that point, what you're doing in the channel, if you were to enact this policy, is you're stopping an illegal incursion into your territorial waters.
So, Fadi, given that what they're doing is illegal, is a result of organised crime, what happens if we do stop them and take them back to France? Can the French refuse them?
Well, by reference to the organised crime principle, France is also under a duty to stop organised crime at that level as well. So it's going to be almost like a legal debate. My point was that it's not as settled as meets the eye when people look at these things in terms of clear cut. And it seems to be the case where people brand, it's a breach of international law, it's not a compliant, you know, these kind of blanket statements are not necessarily, it's a bit more nuanced than meets the eye.
It does seem really peculiar that all of these different countries are signatories to the same UN conventions, but have wildly different success rates when it comes to deporting people from their countries. I mean, Emmanuel Macron has been pretty fastidious in terms of returning migrants from France, whereas the UK seems to have run into just many more sort of legal obstacles. Is that we're more overzealous in terms of implementing these international...
It could be, but that's a good point why I think the current UK-France deal is not going to work in any event. Even going back to 2018, when we were part of the Dublin system, which was better in terms of trying to return...
Well, it did put more people into the UK than we ever sent out.
Well, that's the thing. In 2018, we made around 5,500 requests for the EU to take back migrants. Guess how many of the 5,500 the EU took back?
How many?
209.
Wow.
But in that same year, the EU made 1,900 requests for us to take back.
Did we take every single one?
We took 1,200.
Wow.
The Conservative Party and Reform have both said that they are willing to pull us out of the European Convention on Human Rights. Would that actually make any difference?
It would make some difference, but it wouldn't be the complete picture.
Right.
So we're looking at a jigsaw, and the ECHR is distinct from the 1951 Refugee Convention. There are overlapping principles in terms of safe third country, in terms of Article 3, which is the right to not be tortured or subjected to degrading human treatment.
Yeah.
But that would be one piece of the legal jigsaw, as it were.
We are being told we need to move on, but I do want one more question with you. I'm very sorry. A lot of people from Tony Blair onwards have said that this 51 convention is out of date, that it was not designed for an age of mass movement of people. I mean, we had ministers under Blair say this, we had Suella Braverman go to the United States and say it needs to be reformed. What is the argument against pulling out of it?
That you would effectively go back to the drawing board and leave people in danger, and there'd be a sort of period of having a blank legal framework, which, in terms of what people are facing in other parts of the world, might expose them to danger.
So it's an empathetic argument rather than anything that's sort of legally difficult?
No, because in terms of the law, if there's political will, you can always find a way. If there's a will, there's a way. But that seems to be the hesitation.
OK.
Fadi, thank you so much. Fascinating to talk to you. That is a legal consultant in immigration and asylum, Fadi Farhat there.